So everyone here, thank you so much for being here, especially Rob and Richard for taking the time today. The reason why I'm doing this topic now is just because of what the market's been doing. The competition, competitiveness of the Halifax real estate market has been overwhelming for a lot of people and frustrating. And a lot of people have shown a lot of interest in trying to figure out what it is to be in these competing offers for people trying to get in the market, as people who have been writing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 offers and haven't won yet. So I brought on Rob and Richard, who want just to talk about competitive offers and their experiences of what's going on in the market. So I guess, Rob, for my first question for you, because I talk to Richard all the time, so I'm interested in your insight in this. When did you start seeing the real competitiveness of this market take off?
It started before the pandemic, obviously. Yeah. But really about a month after the pandemic started, everything just kind of went haywire. I sat on my couch for about 2 weeks going, oh God.
But isn't always like that.
Gotta mute. There we go. Sorry, go on.
And yeah, then all of a sudden my phone started to ring, and I masked up and gloved up and off I went, and then it never stopped. It just never stopped, and it just got increasingly worse. And I feel like the new year this year, things really just went from like
took another intense
leap upwards.
I found February and March particularly nuts. Mm-hmm. I felt like we took a breath going into April. I don't know, but like even before the third wave hit, I kind of felt like there's not as many viewings, there's not as many offers. Instead of going against 15, it's now 10, and I can instead of minute like I had a rule in March to be like, if you're writing an offer against competition, it's $100,000 over or don't bother.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, I can get away with 50, 60, which is like, I'm so excited for my client, and my client's like, I'm writing $60,000 over asking. I'm like, this is a good thing. Richard, how have you found it with competition so far?
Yeah, it's mad. I mean, like Rob said, we just did one yesterday, multiple offers, lakefront house, and we had to go 125 over asking.
Did you get it at least?
Oh yeah. But it's that same thing. Like, we just had a conversation Friday, actually, with a couple of other, like Royal LePage, other agents. And we were chatting to them, and they were like the same thing. It's like, people are starting to look at realtors going, well, it's a little bit of your fault that you're starting this whole thing. And I'm like, no, it's not us that's starting this thing. We're having conversations with our clients, and our clients are saying, I want this house. So we have to say, well, okay, if you want this house, what's the maximum number you're prepared to pay that makes you get the house? And even then, we can't guarantee that it's actually going to win. So, they're determining how much over asking price they're actually going. But, admittedly, I've done one where I actually got it, can you believe it, $2,000 under asking price in the West End of Halifax.
Wow.
Yeah. Figure that out. That's Genius. 2,000 under. And then in the next breath, 125,000 over.
Was the one in the West End $100,000 overpriced to start with? Or?
No, it was pretty. I mean, I think it was slightly over anyway. I don't think. I mean, all of us are trying to be sensible from a listing property point of view to say, be sensible. Yeah. List it at a sensible price, get all the interest you can, and then the market will decide how much it's actually going to be worth. And there's definitely houses that we've come across that you look at the numbers that someone's prepared to pay, and we as realtors, I'm sure, are going, no, like, makes absolutely zero sense. There's one behind me. So I live in Fall River, and there's one behind me. The rumor mill on the street is that it's gone for, what was it listed at, 530? It's gone for 180,000 over asking price. That's the rumor. And there is no way on hell's earth it's worth that number. No way on earth. So I don't know.
You brought up something key there, actually. Rob did, actually, in terms of asking if it's listed at value. and if it's actually market value. How much do you guys see it where you're seeing listing agents going really aggressive with price, hoping the market helps them in what they're doing to drive up that price? Are we seeing that as well?
Not too often, but occasionally.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the agent or the client, because I've had to fight a few times with people. You know, the house next door sold for 480. Yeah, but it was listed at 390. You know,
Yeah.
that kind of conversation. So
Yeah. When we're talking competition, the overwhelming anxiety for buyers can be particularly harsh. When you guys have a first-time home buyer getting ready to write their first competitive offer, how are you guys preparing them to deal with the competition, and what strategies are you putting in place to give them the best opportunity to win that competition? Richard?
First thing I'm doing is, and I'll give Sandra Pike kudos for this because she gave me this tip, is once they've narrowed down the area that they want to be in, we're literally going into our back-end realtor system, looking everything in the last like 90 days, sometimes only 60 days, and saying, okay, in your price range, in your area, this is what everything was listed for, this is what everything's sold for. Therefore, you can expect that you're going to pay whatever dollars over asking price. Are you prepared to be able to do that?
That's a good way of qualifying them for the battle or for the competition. In a sense.
Get ready, because it's not going to be straightforward.
Yeah. Well, what happens if you think that it's going to go for more than that average and you're trying to push them up? Are they coming up, or are they just holding the line?
No, pretty much. Like, I mean, my guys are kind of always looking at you as the realtor, the person that knows what's going on in the market and can also give them just sensible advice. So more often than not, it's like, look, this is the average. Now let's look at percentages as well in terms of how much percentage is going over list price. That would mean that it's going to be this kind of a number. Now, do you want to be really sure? Yes. Well, okay. Well, let's look at like going a little bit over that as well. So long as it's not crazy, you know, because at the end of the day, it still comes down to the buyers. They're the ones that have got to be happy paying the mortgage, paying the price that they paid, holding it for the next, you know, we kind of hope that people are at least holding for the next 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't like to necessarily be in the situation where in 18 months, 2 years, I've just bought a however many $100,000 house. And then I'm like, well, actually, I need to sell it now.
Like your 125?
Well, it's on a lake. It's still a good number, like for the finishes. And I know him. He's going to pimp that thing out even more as well. Yeah. So by the time he's finished, it's going to be worth a lot more than what he paid for it.
If you have a client that can't compete financially or can't bring up the number that you think can help financially, how are you building the offer to try and give them the best opportunity to win competition, Rob?
High deposit, I always tell them.
Okay.
Looks attractive.
Oh shit, I just muted Rob. Sorry, Rob. I hit the wrong button.
That's okay.
There you go.
Deposit for sure. I try to keep condition dates really short. You know, I have an inspector that we have the same inspector, I think, Jay, that I keep.
Jody.
Yeah. So I try to keep an appointment with him once a week, at least if I need it.
Yeah. Wait, do you keep him on retainer? Like once you have a scheduled appointment with him and you just wait till you fill it? Yeah. That's actually really smart. I hadn't thought of that yet in a sense, because like I called him this week to do one and he's booked because it's Jody. You know how booked he is. Yeah. So you find the high deposit gives you an advantage. Like how high are we talking for a deposit? 10,000?
Honestly, I tell people if they've got 20 to 30 to 40, I've had people drop $50,000 deposits if they've got it.
Nice. Okay.
You know, strength of offer, right? So,
yeah.
And sometimes a letter, you know, I'm not a big believer in the letters, but you know, I always tell people, I think the letters sellers care about are numbers for the most part, but you might get the odd seller if you're close, even, you know, if you're like $1,000 or $2,000 off from somebody else and you've got a letter that says whatever, you know, I've read some pretty Pretty good.
Man, we were talking about Merrimack, and I got 4 letters, 8 offers, 4 letters, and I read the letters out loud to my clients because like they asked you to present it, so I go through it, and man, I realized it kind of made me realize how hot the market is in a sense of like what these letters contained in terms of like the personal stories behind them. Like I had one lady who talked about her spousal abuse, one lady talked about her relocating from a war-torn country, and my clients are like, how do I choose? How do I pick the human that gets this house? And they were all relatively close in price.
Yeah.
And it honestly, it really did come down to a realtor, a buyer's agent gave me a call before we went to competition. And he said, whatever price you get, come back to me, counter me, and I will outbid them. I'm going to give you list price, and whatever comes back, just work with me and we'll make it happen. And that was, I knew I had that in my back pocket in terms of getting my clients the best deal for them. There was a really nice letter involved too, which made it helpful.
Yep.
The letter did sway. The letter did help.
Oh, yeah.
But when you come with price as well, it's a winning package. I have yet to, you hear the odd story of someone bidding $10,000 under asking, or like on $10,000, $15,000 below the highest bid, but they had a really nice letter. I had that happen to one of my clients in February, but their letter, for example, Rob, this letter was, they hand wrote it. They left a picture of them on their wedding day with their dog, and they hand delivered it in the mailbox.
Oh,
so many personal touches to that letter that just like, I was like, they can't not take this. And we did lose. We did lose. But that first offer fell through because they overextended themselves financially. So we got it on the second try, being third highest offer because we wrote a nice letter. And my clients were like, we thought you were crazy. And I was like, trust me, this is not a normal thing. This is not.
No.
When you talk quick condition dates, how quick are you looking at them when you build an offer, Rob?
Lately, if an offer is due by Sunday or Monday, I'll try to have everything wrapped up by Thursday or Friday.
Even with financing?
Yep.
Oh, geez, how's your mortgage broker like you?
Well, she likes me but hates me sometimes. A couple of times I've gotten the call after, and she's been like, "Until Friday, are you serious right now?" I'm like, "Well, sorry." but it's come together. It's the appraiser part that kind of screws you up a lot lately. You know?
Yeah. Richard, how are you finding your condition dates? Are you looking at 3, 4, 5 days?
I'm the same. I'm on like 5 business days. If there's a well or a septic involved, I'll push it maybe to 7 days, just because you've got to get. Well, there's 3 things with the well system: is somebody's got to get there to take the quality, someone's then got to get it to the lab, and then the lab's got to do its work. Like if you are trying to turn that around in like 4 business days, no, it ain't happening. Well, it will happen, but it's going to cost you about $1,000 to get your water quality result back, because now you're asking for a 24-hour turnaround. So if it's well and septic, I'll go to about 7 business days. But anything else, I'm with Rob. I'm like, it's got to be 5 business days or less. And yet mortgage people hate us. But I'm like, well, you have the conversation with my client then that everybody was the same on price, but Rob said 5 business days. I said 10. They're going to go with Rob.
They're going to go with Rob. 100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But like, it's also weighing the offer, right? Because once you're in the door, then you can negotiate. If you need an extension, they're going to give you an extension because they've given you the deal. They're not going to cancel your.
See, Rob's nodding his head. He's done that before.
Not intentionally, but
no, it's never intentional. But it's like you say. The first thing is win the offer. Yeah. If we don't win the offer, everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah, and that's why when it's so weird coming to competition, because you're in a sense of like, I've got to win it. These condition dates might be unrealistic, because like I think like 4 to 5 days for condition dates in terms of securing financing. Home inspector, I mean, he's got Jody on retainer, so he's fine. The rest of us out here having to book Derek Hale to do a septic, having to book your typical home inspectors. to do that sense of getting those things all lined up, that like I can't get an inspector for a week now, typically.
Wow.
Unless I'm like Rob said, we both use Jody, and Jody and I are great, and Jody will always bend his schedule to help me out, as I'm sure he does Rob. So I know Jody will get me in. I just have to bring him a cookie usually to be like, thank you for being here at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, and then you've got 4 more days to do today.
With Derek Hale, it's a large coffee double and a muffin. If you get in the muffin, that gets you in there.
What kind of muffin? Does he have a flavor?
I think it's just a regular chocolate chip.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Just
so you know, write it down, Rob. Write it down.
Yeah.
That's my muffin. I can remember that.
There you go.
Derek, I got Derek in on Wednesday, and we have conditions that firm up today, but of course water quality hasn't come back yet, so I've got to go back to the table to write that amendment to get it pushed back to Wednesday or Thursday just to get that. But even then, like in terms of securing the offer, I did the same thing as you guys did, where a sense of like you're doing 4 to 5 days and conditions to win it, and then you're manipulating the circumstances to help benefit. Because like no one's gonna say no once you're in the deal. No one wants to go back to market because it doesn't look good for the sellers. You're already there. We definitely wrote the best offer, 100%. And do you ever feel like when you write an offer for X amount of dollars over asking and you win it, do you ever get that sinking feeling that like, how much did I have bid?
Much, yeah.
Yeah, it's like we all want to win multiple offers by $1,000, but I mean it's the nature of the game. You know, you'll just never know.
Yeah,
and people always ask too, what was the next offer?
Yeah.
You might not want to know. Like just you know, be happy that you won.
2 things: I can't tell you, and number 2, you don't really want to know.
Yeah, because like in a sense of like with because if it's $1,000 or $2,000, you're gonna be burned. But if it's like 40 to 50, you're like, dodge the bullet, dodge the bullet. There's been a few instances of those in my experience this year where I've been like, it went for what?
Yeah.
Have it, have the house, have it, all of it. We don't need to worry about it.
Well, it's the same thing like the one behind me. Like we did put in an offer on that. There was 15 offers in total. We were offer number 2. And if the number that's true that actually sells for, I'm like, yeah, we definitely dodged a bullet.
Yeah.
Because there's no way I would have got my client to pay that much money for that house.
How many offers is so like one buyer working with? How many on average offers do you think they're writing before they win a house and like get accustomed to what the market's actually doing? Rob? the look on the face.
And it's all over the map. I've actually had like first time people win and I'd be like, oh my God, we got another first time. And then I've got others that were like 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah.
Like I feel like sometimes 6 to 8 might be
that ticket, that area. Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard?
It also gets them to the point where they're like, you know, okay, we've lost 8. Here's all of our money. Just take
yes, there is.
Due in June, you can have that too. Like this is like all of our money.
Yeah, I'm on about 4 to 6, somewhere in that range. But it's the same thing. Like, you know, the one yesterday, first lake house they ever saw. Their house is closing on Monday. And he wanted really quick conditions as well. So it was like quick conditions, good price, quick close date. The people that own it are in New Brunswick, so it's vacant for them. So all of those factors for us, and it was like, first one in. And he said, you tell me a number that we're going to have to pay to make sure we get it. And I'm like, I don't know.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard question.
Yeah. I hate that question.
Yeah.
I mean, he started off with one number and I looked at him and said, that night, absolutely, that's a really good number. I just can't be sure with that number. So if you give me and I said, look, let's go above what he wanted, And he was like, I said, okay, are you comfortable with this number? And he's like, yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I'm like, great. So now let's change some of the conditions, the closing dates, and let's be really aggressive on this. And the whole package then, yeah, I mean, it was wrapped up in less than, well, what was it? 40 minutes, 20 minutes to drive there, 20 minutes back, 15 minutes to write the offer, done and dusted in less than an hour and a half.
Okay.
First offer. But like he's going to be there until they take him out in a coffin.
How many offers does that property get?
Well, so let's talk about the world of bully offers, or shall we call them preemptive offers? All offers meant to be in by Monday. And I'm like, don't say anything about the absolutely not accepting preemptive offers, which is what are called a bully offer. So, okay, should we do it? And he's like, am I going to win the house? I'm like, well, I've done it 3 or 4 times where I started the whole process of offers being done early. Because, so Jason's selling the house, me and Rob have gone to look at the house, and like say 10 other agents. Richard rings up Jason and says, so I know, Jason, that all offers are meant to be in by 4 o'clock today. If I sent you an offer today, which you know is going to be a good offer, can your clients deal with it? Jason says, not too sure. Let me find out. Jason rings his clients. Clients say, yes, they'll deal with it so long as it's a good offer. And then Jason rings the bank and says, okay, go ahead and send your offer. First thing Jason's going to do when he gets my offer is call up Rob or email Rob and everybody else who's viewed the property, say, just to let you know, we've received an offer. If your clients are interested in sending an offer, we'll be dealing with all offers instead of Monday. We're dealing with them all by Sunday at 5 p.m. All of a sudden, Monday 4 p.m. offers is now gone. All offers are now in by Sunday at 5 p.m. So all of a sudden, people are rushing to get their offers together and figure it out. Good thing is it doesn't take that long to actually put pen on paper and write an offer, so to speak, in this digital world, because it's all just clicking buttons and filling in stuff. So that's what we did. We started the whole process, and yeah, all offers had to be in by, I think, 4 p.m. on Saturday.
So 2 things I'm going to pick up there. First off, just for everyone in the room who might not know, what is a bully offer?
Rob,
what is a bully offer, Rob? Just for everyone in the room who might not be familiar.
Well, as I'm listening to Richard tell this story, it reminds me of Kernwood.
Yeah. Yes, indeed.
It's essentially when all offers are supposed to be in by a certain day and another agent comes in and presents an offer or has an offer that they want you to present
2 days before. 2 days before the deadline, 3 days before the deadline, 4 days before the deadline.
Yeah.
We've all been burned by bullies offers, correct? Everyone in here has been. Richard, by the sounds of it, it sounds like you burned Rob once or twice.
Oh, he didn't burn me at all.
We were trying to buy Rob's place.
Oh,
I started it. I started that, didn't I?
Yeah, he started a shitstorm, and then
secondly, the second part of this is that very rarely does what you, Richard, say happen in a sense where you deliver the first bully and then everyone else gets notified. That typically doesn't happen. Not in my experience. The bully offers have been offers were due Saturday at 4 p.m. Someone's written on Thursday and not told anyone else. And suddenly you get the Friday morning, we are now conditional sale. Yeah. And you're there like, dude.
Yeah, what the hell? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because that is also what this market has done in its hyper competitiveness, has driven people to doing whatever they have to do to get the house. And you're simply testing what the listing agent is willing to do.
Or you have a client text you and say, what happened to such and such? Conditional.
Yeah. That's a bad conversation to have. And you're
what do you mean?
Yeah. And you're like, it went conditional? Or even you had the viewing booked for Saturday. The bully offer came in on Thursday. They accepted it Thursday night, Friday morning, and all of a sudden your viewing gets cancelled on Saturday. And you're like, what the, for goodness sake, happened there?
The worst is when you book the viewing for Saturday and you tell them offers aren't due until Saturday night at 6 and we're going in at 10 a.m. So we have plenty of time to review, discuss, and then write. And then
Yeah.
you get, and then you're right. When they text you, it's sold. What the heck? It's gone. And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
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 When you're building the offer, Richard, you gave me a really good tip back in December for competing offers and incentives of doing the point of the pain point.
Yeah.
Of asking where, when you're trying to think of the number for competition, in a sense of like you're competing against 8 offers, it's listed at 250. What number do you think is going to win? Well, how about 300? I'll give 300. Okay, well, 310. You're getting there. 318. Jay, 325. You just, and they're like, no, absolutely not. Okay, 319. But they'll always climb back. Well, I don't. What about, we might be the highest bid? I'm like, and that's the point. The point is competition, to give yourself the best opportunities to win the deal, because you don't know what everyone else is going to do. No. Which is why we're seeing these price points go as crazy as they have.
Yeah.
In a sense of everyone's having to write the offer that goes above and beyond because of all the competition.
Yeah.
Is that what you're seeing, Rob, as well, in terms of like trying to get the house?
Yeah.
Yeah. What? Oh, go.
Sometimes I'll call the agent and I'll be like, are we wasting our time if we write an offer at, like, if the house is listed at say 300, are we wasting our time if we write an offer at 460? What about
so that's the conversation I had yesterday with the agent on the lakefront house. She was like, okay, just so that we don't waste anybody's time here, she was like, here's the listing price. What are you going to send me an offer at? I said, my offer is going to go in at X. And she was like, okay, I understand. It's a really good offer. Let's do this. But it's the same thing that Rob says, like, I would rather have the conversation with Rob or Jason or whoever the listing agent is to say, listen, here's what my clients are thinking about. Here's how high we're going to go. Like, are we close, or are we just filling in paperwork, clicking buttons and chewing our nails, waiting for an answer for like no reason? Because I've definitely had it where I've talked to other agents and you say, okay, first thing you want to know is how many offers have you got? We got 10 offers. Okay, so it's obviously a highly contested property. We're going to submit an offer. If we submit an offer, like take Rob's number, it's listed at 350, I think. And okay, we're going to go in at 460. Like, are we close? And then it's just going to come down to conditions, or are we like so far off? And I did actually have one agent say, I can tell you now, I got 6 offers higher than that already. And I've already pushed my clients to their maximum pain point at 460. You're like, okay, you may as well just have that honest conversation with your clients that are like, your highest point is 460. I've been told by the agent they've got X offers already over that. Do you want to go through this or not?
How are you finding the conversations with the listing agents going in terms of getting that information out of them?
Depends on the listing agent.
Yeah. Depends on the agent. Because I'm finding no one's given me, like, I've tried that phone call a few times and the agent on the side hasn't given me anything. Oh, well, I have these offers in hand. So, if you want to write, I'm calling you because I want to write. I'm calling you to like try and some agents work, some agents don't. Have you found how, like that example of the buyer's agent who called me for Merrimack and said, whatever you get best offer, give me a counter and we'll come above it. Are you having agents consider that technique, that route of trying to negotiate of a counter or maybe above asking, and or above and beyond what your highest offer is, and they'll work with you on it? No. No.
I never have. No.
Never have. Okay. Richard?
I've asked that question to say, look, if we're close, I don't want to lose by a small number. Like, if we sent the offer in at 460 and then I find out that it actually sells at 462,
bitter.
Buyers are definitely going to be a bit pissed because like, $2,000, I would have gone up. And then you go back to, but remember that conversation we had about 460 being your highest number? I did ask you if it was $1,000 more than that, would you be really pissed off? Well, no, because I'm not paying more than 460. Right. So you can't call me then when you see it sells at 462 and say, well, if I'd have known I was that close, I would have put in 462. So I always have that conversation with the buyers that I'm working with as well, to say, look, this highest number has got to be the highest number. Somebody pays $100 more than that number, you've got to be like, I don't care.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't lose it for $100.
That would suck.
Yeah.
that might be like 3 cents on the mortgage payment. Like, I hope you don't lose it for $100, because that would be.
Well, I mean, so let's ask you two guys the other question. Do you start creeping out properties that you have lost out on multiple offers to see what they did finally sell for?
Every time.
Every time.
Every time.
Yeah.
Every time. Oh man. I'm so tunnel vision in terms of, like, I say every time I lose, I always say on to the next with like an exclamation point and a happy face in a text.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'm like, that's gone. Someone wrote what they wrote. Because I'm like you, Richard. I always look for the pain point. And if the pain point doesn't win it, then it's just simply we have to saddle up and go on the next one, because the next one is going to be offers to do in 2 days.
Yeah.
So it's very. Also, wait, Rob, do you have an administrator on your? Do you have an assistant? Yeah, I don't. People, I'm still me.
You need an assistant.
You spoiled agents.
I don't think I've really cried since I hired Lisa.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another little caveat. You guys have people who are like, keep an eye on that house. I'm like, too many agents, too many humans, too many houses, too many podcasts, too many content. Now I can't bitch.
Yeah, you need to hire somebody to help you.
I'm working on it. But I do want to change the narrative of this conversation, because right now it's been mostly doom and gloom because buying sucks. How has selling been for you both? How have you guys found listing a house in this market going?
Oh, we'll let Rob talk about that.
We all prefer listings, I think.
We preferred them anyway.
What's that?
We preferred them anyway.
Well, back in the day, I preferred buyers.
Really? Okay.
In a different market, I preferred buyers because, a house wouldn't always sell no matter what you did.
Yeah.
The buyers always had to buy.
Yeah.
I mean, selling's still a lot of work. You're still dealing with your phone ringing. Like, I made the mistake of listing 3 properties on a Thursday one week.
Ooh.
Oh, it was horrible.
Yeah, you got no weekend.
No, it was horrible.
No.
Like, your phone rings, your email's going off, your text is going off. It's even on one property. Like, I listed Hume Street on Thursday. I've only had 38 showings, which,
You just say 38 showings?
Yeah. But, I think a month ago, I probably would have had 58.
Yeah.
So, but my phone's still ringing. I'm literally fielding text messages and emails, questions about it right now.
Yeah.
So and then you're trying to make sure that you pick the right offer, because sometimes you'll have 2 or 3 offers that are exactly the same. And, you got to have a conversation with each one of the agents and, try and vet them the best you can. And sometimes even that doesn't work because,
Vetting them how?
Finding out about their pre-approval, finding out about, what their story is, anything like knowing the agent sometimes is a big thing too. Have you dealt with the agent before? Is it a newer agent? Is it an experienced agent? Is it,
because that comes into play as to how smooth the transaction is going to go.
Yeah.
Because we as agents can really dramatically affect the experience based on whose name is on that deal, right? And because you're so experienced in the industry, you have a better idea than per se me of all the people that are, you want names on certain papers and then you want others. But if they're close on price, that comes down to it. If it's not close on price, you go with the best offer. Richard, I'm going to switch it to you for this one. When you're getting ready for a listing, are you doing the same amount of work as you would before in other markets?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I don't think just because it's a fast, hot market and you're going to get a lot of market exposure, it's still our job when you put a for sale sign on the front lawn. It's not you stick up the for sale sign, you've done some photographs and you're like, well, let the games begin. That happens anyway. But for me, I'm trying to do as much marketing beforehand as I can. So like I've only had, I think, one house where it's literally photographs today, for sale sign, and active on the market tomorrow. You know, I've got one coming now, and I'm like, for the first time, because of the situation with him being a rotational worker, I've got a full 14 days of like, oh, we can have some marketing fun now, and we can actually build up the excitement so that when it does finally go live on the market and for sale, all of a sudden you've got this kind of backwash or the wave of people who've been looking at this on Instagram and social media and YouTube and all this kind of stuff going, oh my God, finally I get to actually go and look at the house. So I think the work that I'm doing on that one, as well as some of the other ones, it's the same in every market. Like you should still be putting in the amount of time and effort that's needed to make sure you're doing the best job for your sellers.
Are you finding the market, because like this market is hot. So are you finding the extra stuff in terms of social media marketing, YouTube marketing, email marketing? Is that making a difference when you come to market because you're building that anticipation from the other agents who do your stuff?
Yeah, like I've definitely had like 3 or 4 agents literally ring me up to say, oh, I just saw that such and such put the sign on the front lawn at a place in wherever that person said they were. Can you tell me all the details about it?
Yeah.
So, you know, you're definitely, and I think that from a buying agent point of view, that's trying to do the best thing for their clients so that they can get in early.
Yeah.
So they're not just waiting for our MLS system to say, oh, this property matches your client's search criteria. And then they're like, oh yeah, it does. They're like, what do I do now? Oh, let's get a viewing. Oh, I can't get my viewing. So I've literally had 3 agents on one property rang me up and they're like, okay, when's the first appointment going to open up? And I'm like, well, it's going live on Wednesday. Great. Can I book 9 a.m.? Okay. And then another one is like, okay, can I book one? And you're like, well, I've already got a 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. I'm like, great. Can I have 10 to 11? So they're pre-booking their slots before our system opens up to say, now go ahead and book.
Okay.
So, you know, you're just basically getting some people in the door as quick as they can. And I'm like, from a buying agent point of view, yeah, that's what they should be doing.
When you're buying, you need to get in the house as soon as possible. But I do want to stay on the selling side for a second, because in a sense of right now we say doom and gloom for buyers, but for selling, it's a wonderful time until you have to buy again, right? That's what golden carrot is right now. I don't know about you guys, but I get my buyers from the last 2 years sending me texts being like, hey, the one next to me just sold $150,000 over asking. Do you think I should sell? And I'm like, no, I think you should sit. I don't think you should move, because whatever you make selling, you'll spend buying.
Yeah.
How are what are you guys seeing for in the last few weeks? We've seen the market do sort of take a breath with COVID, with the third wave. People, I find a few amount of humans have left the market, whether they're out of province buyers waiting for the border to open up, and or even people within the city wanting to stay home to not catch COVID. Rob, how are you finding the amount of offers you're going against now in terms of the buying side of it? Is it down for you in terms of writing offers on houses?
I find it's down. It's down on the listings that I've had too.
So, listings are down as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So down per se from what? Like what on average are you seeing, and what are you seeing now in terms of showings, offers, all that wonderful stuff?
Well, again, I'll use Hume. Like I've had 38 showings, but I think before this, you know, like for instance, Richard Kernwood, I had probably 62 showings.
Ooh, wow.
Out there initially.
Yeah.
So, and I think, you know, Hume's a great little area. It's a nice little house. I think a month ago I might have had 50 showings as opposed to the 38.
Yeah.
And I had a few people cancel for whatever reason, you know, maybe their agent said that they couldn't go in, like, or they had to do it virtually or whatever happened. But I probably had 6 cancellations on Hume as well too, which is a lot because you don't normally get a cancellation.
No.
I had a listing go live 2 days before Strang and Rankin locked us down fully again. Mm-hmm. And I was fully booked the Friday and the Saturday, probably like 12 to 18 viewings for the one house in 2 days, and I was ready. And then the lockdown notice came and my phone went from active viewings booked to like 12 cancellations.
Oof.
Oh, it ruined me. It absolutely ruined. And like my clients, I had them, they were still living at the house. So I had the schedule sent, the timeline sent, then I had to call them like, we've lost 85% of our viewings thanks to this.
Wow.
And they're thinking, well, how do we maneuver? And I was like, you can either, it was really simple, with either stay on market and deal with what we get, or take it off the market for a month and wait for the market to come back. They decided to stay and they still got a good offer and they're happy with the offer. But in a sense of like the expectations and the assumptions that were made, not from me, but by what that obviously people watch the market, set them up for a higher number. And it just so happened that the third wave really kicked us in the nuts.
Yeah.
How are you finding it, Richard, since the third wave has gone on?
Yeah, I've definitely got a lot of my clients tend to come from Ontario, from BC, from Alberta, who are the buyers. And they haven't necessarily slowed down because they were always like, well, we're doing this whole thing virtually anyway. So we're not closing on the property until June, July, August time. So from an effect of how it actually hit those people, not really. Like, it's still me going around with the phone and doing videos and sending them links and having a conversation afterwards anyway. So it didn't really slow them down. And I would say over the last 3 weeks, I've probably had more purchase and sale agreements that I've been writing for buyers than probably in like February. Like February and March to me were still good months writing a lot of offers. But all of a sudden in the last like 2-3 weeks, I'm like, I've probably written about 7 offers. Now 3 of them have got accepted. But it felt like I'm writing a lot more buyer offers over the last month.
Interesting. That's actually, because like I find it's the opposite for me.
Me
I
too.
found like February and March where I couldn't keep up. I was working like a dog for the real estate business side of it, in a sense of 10 to 12 hour days, getting into houses, writing offers, losing offers, going into the next house, writing offers, losing, building it up. Yeah. And I found April was slower. Just the month, I thought even before the third wave, it was like, it kind of felt a little slower. And then we got into May, and I think honestly, like half of my clients left. They as soon as the wave hit, they were like, nope, because a few are older. Some are with a small child, so we're gonna wait till this to calm down. So I've kind of been like, I've actually been kind of been able to like relax, and like I've been kind of been able to like take stock and like somewhat peace and tranquility, which is why I decided to do this, because I have the time. Yeah. I had the time to be able to be like, oh, I can do these once a week for the next few weeks because I can't podcast anymore, because can't have people over, can't do things. Yeah. We'll just, I don't know. It hasn't gone crazier for. I found more offers getting accepted. Like if I'm writing an offer now, I'm winning.
Yeah.
Which is
well. Just this week, I'm 2 for 2. 2 offers written, 2 offers won. And I've always had pretty good success with buyers like over the last like 9 years. This year, well, probably a little bit of last year into this year, all of a sudden I'm like, writing 10 offers, maybe getting 6, 5, 4 accepted. Now all of a sudden I'm like, wow, like 2 for 2 in 1 week. Like that's pretty impressive. I'm feeling like a genius again. So, it's interesting how it's changed a little bit. Now, whether that's going to carry on, but I do think you're right. It does feel like the market has gone, let's just take a little bit of a breath here and pause a little bit during May.
On showing time, when we schedule the viewings in our app, I'm just seeing like it's not as booked, which is just nice. It just gives me reassurance that I can get in. I do.
Well, that goes back to Rob saying like, he would normally have had 60 viewings and now it's 38. Now you can actually get space in there to go and get a viewing booked.
Rob, when are viewings for that place? Or when are offers due for that place? Is it soon, or is it like
tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow morning? Have you started receiving offers yet? 2 in hand. I'll see the market's still hot. He's still going to compete.
Yeah.
And the first offer I got was absolutely ridiculous. So
Ridiculous good, ridiculous bad. Like there's
ridiculous
two.
good. Like I just get an email like, oh, here's our offer. Like, do you have any other offers? They didn't ask. It's just like, oh, here's our crazy numbered offer. Hopefully
Wow.
not the only one.
I mean, if you have a crazy offer in hand, though, it doesn't matter if it's the only one.
Well, now I can kind of relax. Yeah. So
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, perfect.
When you say crazy, was it a bully or did he just want to get it in before the
I
deadline?
just got it in early. Yeah.
Wow. No pressure whatsoever to accept. Just here it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like an older agent, not older, but he's
experienced.
He's been around. Yeah, he's been around a long time. He just sent me an offer. Here you go. But I guess we all just assume.
Well, it's almost like the bar has been set.
Yep.
Of what's gonna win.
Yeah.
And you know what the ballpark is and it doesn't matter because once the precedent has been set, and in February, March, it was $100,000 over asking was the precedent to win offers. I don't think people have forgotten that precedent, even in like the slower breathing time, in a sense where someone is, when I'm competing against 3, 4, 5, 6 offers, rather than 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I'm still terrified someone's going to go to the crazy. How do you, because it's like, I could be less aggressive,
Mhm.
but my clients love the house and there may be someone out there that thinks, I'm ready, and just throws that's why I'm still having clients write the best offers. How are you?
Yeah, I don't think you should become complacent at all.
It's not the time.
No.
Yeah.
How, I'm going to change this. I'm going to change the topic one more time because in this room, I do know a few of these people, and I know the fact that most of them are investors. So how are you guys finding your investors you work with in this competitive environment in HRM? And how are you helping them still find deals? Because typically investors, we talked about this early on, is cash flow rather than the actual asset of the house. So I guess I'll open up to you first, Rob. How are you finding your investor clients in this type of market?
Difficult, but I mean, it's difficult all the way around because sometimes you'll find a good rental property, but the rents there aren't what they should be.
Yep.
And it's going to be really hard to get them up to where they should be.
Yep.
I've had some of my investment people just kind of on hold at the moment.
Would that be because of the market and the 2% rent cap?
Yeah.
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 Richard, how are you finding it with investors?
Yeah, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm actually advising clients now who are looking at income properties. I had one guy and he was going a little bit crazy with like even just the amount of properties we were viewing. And I'm like, okay, look, we need to like slow down looking at 15 properties in a day. I get that you're really excited and you want to get on with this. I said, but this is not necessarily the investor market. Like, there aren't really any deals. I've listed 2 or 3 income properties this year, seen what they sold for and said, I wouldn't have bought it for that. Like the numbers don't stack up. They made no sense, but somebody else obviously did it. Now, I do think you're going to get buyers in particular that are investors, but at the same time are looking at it going, yeah, but I actually need a house to live in as well. So if it's a duplex side by side, in particular, I think people are buying it because they want to live in one side, keep the other side as an income stream. And then in the next, 4 years, maybe they'll keep it as a proper duplex and go and buy a single family home because the market's calmed down. And then they're like, well, great, I've got the income property and I got somewhere to live. But there are no real deals right now for income properties, unless it's the like, okay, we're basically gutting the whole thing and putting it back together again, because then you've got no tenants in the building either because it needs that much work. So you can reset the rents when you get the building.
Yeah.
But that's a lot of work, and you've got to know what you're doing, and you've got to, again, cost of building materials, they've gone through the roof as well. So, what you used to be able to do to fix and do a property up to make it good again is now costing you more money as well. So therefore your capital into that building has gone up. Not just because maybe you paid a bit more for it at the start, but also you're paying more to get it fixed up.
Don't forget the timelines for renovations as well, because of the amount of it's cost, but it's also supply, in a sense of like, if you have a bathroom renovation, you're doing a renovation to bring up the rental capacity of each unit. What used to be a 2 or 3 month renovation might be now a 5 to 6 month, simply because you're waiting on materials to get there. Costs are at all-time high, and as we all know with investors, if your biggest loss is how long you hold the property before you start seeing returns on it.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just more capital, isn't it? It's just capital intensive now.
Yeah. I've noticed, and some investors take the appreciation equity gain approach in HRM.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how long you can rely on rapid gains in the market, in a sense of buying a shithole and just holding it and hoping. In the last year, people did great with that strategy. But are we going to go up $100,000 annually in average home price?
God, I hope not.
No.
It's just in a sense of like like, I know, Rob, you had a really nice investment property in Spryfield that I viewed. And what did that go for, if you don't mind me asking? Because that was gorgeous.
Not crazy. It went 50 grand over.
Okay. Yeah. But like, in a sense of like, the tenants were locked in, they weren't leaving.
Yeah.
They were good tenants.
And they were paying very, very under market rent.
And that was what killed my clients, was undervalued market rents, which seems to be a really big thing in Halifax right now, in a sense of trying to acquire assets, but they're undervalued and there's no way to bring up the actual rentals because they've been held for so long. So are you guys just advising people to stay away from the market until it kind of calms down a bit?
Just watch, pay attention, flag properties that you like the look of, and just watch, just wait.
And it doesn't have to try sometimes either. Like I tell people, do you think we'll get it if we go 40 over? Who knows? It doesn't. I don't want to say no and see it sold 38 over.
Yeah. Yeah. That is kind of like that is kind of the problem with this market, is trying to understand. And I had a client the other day. I was in a house with her Friday, and we wrote an offer on another property, and she had outbid the offer they went with. And she called saying, "Hey, like, I offered more than these guys. Like, what's happening?" And I was like, "Don't you remember my phone call? They had waived all inspections, and you were dead set on having inspections, and you only offered $4,000 more." They went with no inspections because they don't want anyone to come back because that furnace is old.
Yeah.
Are you finding people waiving like conditions like inspections now? Yeah. Are you seeing that, Rob?
Yeah. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I used to write a clause in saying, buyer will not come back on any inspection items found.
Oh, are you writing that clause yourself?
I haven't written it recently. I wrote it a lot in the beginning.
Okay.
So still have the inspection, but just on the understanding that you're not going to come back.
Yeah, it's an information session. We're going in. If there's mold in the attic, we'll deal with the mold in the attic.
Or terminate.
Or they'll terminate. Yeah.
Or they'll terminate. Yeah. Keeping them safe. Yeah. Richard, how are you finding in terms of inspections? Are you waiving them or keeping them on?
Depends on the property. So, one of the wins this week, it's a 2-year-old house. I'm like, do you know what? There's little risk involved in waiving your inspection conditions on that property. For that one in particular, we did also have to waive the financing, but kept a lawyer condition in there, just to make sure that there's something, if anything shows up that we don't like. But I mean, again, you get to that stage where the client's like, nope, we want the property. So what have we got to do? And it was pretty quick onto the market. The whole day, for 3 days, actually, were solid booked on showing time out, which is our viewing system. So you knew that everybody was looking at the property. And it was like, look, it's up to you. And even these guys, we're on the 7th offer they've written. And they were like, what have we got to do to make sure we win this one? And I'm like, well, It's up to you on price. We got to go in high, but for conditions, I'm not nervous about inspection. 2 years old, we've still got 5 years homeowners warranty program left on the building as well. I know the builder. The builder's a solid, really good builder. So I'm not nervous that they half-assed the build as well. So risk element was pretty low on that. The next one was like, well, shall we waive financing? I'm like, that's entirely up to you. Like, that's not any advice I would give anybody, but that's up to you. If you think that you need to do that and you're comfortable doing that, then that's up to you. Luckily, they've already sold one house in Victoria for some crazy amount of money, and there's another house that they're selling in Ottawa, probably for crazy money as well. So yes, they'll get a mortgage. Do they need a mortgage? Probably not.
Yeah. I was worried about that in February, March, at the peak of this nonsense. I was worried about home inspections being the next thing to go. I was really looking at it being like, I don't want to waive them yet. I don't ever advise anyone to waive them. But in a sense of being like, if I have to win a house in a year's, I was looking ahead because I didn't think we were going to settle down. It didn't look like with the way supply was and what demand was, it just didn't look like it was going to come down at all. And I was in my head, I was like, if I have to start advising people to waive inspections, I might just. What do you?
Well, that's the thing. We can waive the inspection condition. Doesn't stop you from having an inspection.
Yeah.
You just can't come back and renegotiate anything on the agreement because of stuff that showed up on the inspection. So as Rob was saying, inspect it and then decide you want to buy it or walk away.
Has that worked a lot for you, Rob?
Yeah.
Yeah,
actually. And I always have the conversation with the agent too when I send in the offer. Like, that's the big thing. Talk to the other agent. Don't just send an offer and hope for the best. Call them and say, I've discussed with them. They're pre-approved. I've discussed the inspection process with them. They understand that it's an information session. They want the house. If they find mold in the attic, they want the house. I can say mold as the attic as an example, but they're not going to walk away on piddly little items, and they're not going to come back at piddly little items. So
how have your clients reacted to that advisement?
Great.
Great.
If they want the house, they're comfortable with it. We still do the inspection, so that way if we find out that it's shifting and it's structurally damaged, we can at least walk away, and it costs them $500 or $600 for the inspection, but they're not getting a house that 2 years down the road is cracking up the middle, and they're calling me going, oh my God, what do we do?
And again, some of the stuff, like the three of us have been around long enough that we can tell certain things anyway. Like, you could easily look at the roof and go, do you know what? You've probably not got many years life left on that roof, because it's obvious when you walk up to houses. So you can see some of the bigger, more expensive things that could be needing fixing. We're not saying we're home inspectors and we're going to tell you that it's got to be done, but it's like, you look at a roof and you see shingles missing that are blown off, and you see curling shingles, and you see like even shingles just lying on the ground. You're like, pretty sure we're going to have to do a roof at some stage in the next 2 to 3 years. And ballpark a number, just to at least give people some advice of like, okay, let's go into this. And again, as soon as you go into a house, you can tell if the seals on the windows are blown, and you can see the fogging. There's all sorts of things that you can see. And if they're like, yep, still want to write the offer, you're like, okay, well, short of something horrendous showing up that, nobody can see right now. And even then you kind of go, well, can the inspector see it? He can't remove drywall off the basement to see if there's a foundation crack. He might be able to see from the outside, but again, you're kind of looking for the big, horrible, scary stuff, as opposed to it's not a brand new house, it's 25 years old.
The other side of that, and this is where my paranoia comes in, is I understand that we've all been around the block long enough that we can spot these tickets in houses. When you're going competition, in my head, I'm like, who hasn't? Who's writing the offer that hasn't noticed the condition of this home? Because there's someone in there that is writing an offer that hasn't picked up on a roof or the broken seals and windows, or maybe it's a cinder block foundation. We all know that they leak, and we all know that there are problems with those, or maybe with maybe you can notice that the floors are they're in a poor state. We can pick up these things, but what about the people and the humans that are writing offers that have not and are advising their clients to write, and you're there like, I got to beat those ones. It's not even just
yeah
because
nothing you can do about it, Jason.
That's the
Nothing
problem
you
with
can do about it.
competition. That's the problem with competition, is trying to figure out how to finagle a deal that is value on the current home. And another problem is home sales are telling you everything's value. Because you're like, this is overpriced, and then a day later the comp comes on the market where you're like, oh, never mind, I'm sorry, this is actually undervalued.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it changes daily,
every
like
day.
how the market actually is.
Yeah. It's hard to keep an eye on it, because it's just, you don't know what to. And banks with appraisers moving from in person to online has been the weirdest shift for me, because now everything gets appraised.
Yeah.
Which, like, I just feel like you're on MLS then. They're on MLS looking at the comps of MLS rather than being in the house. It's I suppose, I know Richard's got to go soon, so I'll wrap this up. Before I go for my last question, is probably just going to be, how do you guys have any advice for anyone dealing with competition or struggling with winning competition, in a way to help them get the house that they're looking for? And we'll start with Rob, just to open this up for him.
Whew.
I know it's vague.
Big question.
I guess the same as I've just been carrying on. Like, don't give up hope. Just do your best every time.
Yeah.
Whatever you're comfortable with. Like, that's the other thing, is like pricing. I tell people whatever they're comfortable with. Like, if you're going to be okay losing this house at going 80 grand over, then you're comfortable losing the house going 80 grand over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Richard?
Same thing that we're saying. You've got to kind of go to that, like, okay, what's the number that if you find out that it goes for 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 over that, you're still like, okay, all power to them. Like, glad somebody else got it. And, for that number, that was it, and there's nothing worse. I mean, it's hard. Like, it is really hard on buyers, like, we can be somewhat emotionally detached, but, I know that it pisses me off to the nth degree when I find out I didn't win an offer for my clients for the house that they wanted. There's nothing worse that you get that call and it's like 8:30 on a Saturday night, Rob, for instance, and you're like, holy shit, what do you mean we didn't win? Like, give me a break. And then you're like, I'm just going to go and drink. Like, I need a drink. And it sucks. Like, it's really hard on the agents, and it's even worse on the buyers, because some buyers, Rob no doubt has got the same, you've got the same as well, Jason, where we've had those clients, it's like, it's our 10th offer, and they're just waiting for you to ring them up and say, look, really sorry, we didn't get it. And they're like, okay, it's fine, no problem. And you're like, yeah, but like, we didn't win it. And like, yeah, whatever. And you're like, oh, give me a break. Like, how can I give these guys some good news? So it's just tough on buyers right now, really tough.
Selling's easier. Selling's nice.
Yeah, but then let's go back to the Rob situation. I've got a house. Rob's listed a house. 72 viewings over the next 3 days. Yeah, guess what, sellers? Sorry, go and live with the in-laws. Find somewhere else to stay for 3 days, because that's a gong show. Like, you just leave the house at 9, come back at 7.
Oh, I kicked my guys out.
It's the only way.
My last 4 listings have been either they've gone to an Airbnb or they've gone to family and friends. That's it. That's all they're doing. Is it's like, I need this vacant because I have to bring in all the humans, because that's how you're gonna get the most offers in your bank account, right? That's what it's gonna be. That's what Merrimack did. They booked an Airbnb for the entire week just to get out, so we could get all the humans in to do what they gotta do with competition. It's an interesting dynamic. My advice for anyone trying to win competition is reflecting the same thing as you guys have said, understanding your pain point, your pressure point to walking away. Condition dates are always key. Try and make yourselves as appealing as possible. letters sometimes stick, most times don't. That tip about inspections from Rob is really good. Having an inspection, but not willing to come back and renegotiate on anything inspection item. I almost wish I had did that for my one. Just pass it. I feel like I might have won it if that was the case. Richard, I know you got to go. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure.
No worries.
We're doing another one next week. It'll be on multi-units if you're interested.
Ooh, intriguing.
I know, right?
All right. Go. I better go and do my yard work.
Yeah. Have
Rob,
fun.
good to see you. Jason, always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Richard.
Just as we're wrapping this up, I'm gonna Rob, for if you got another 5 to 10 minutes, just in case someone has a question about competing offers in Halifax in general, I'm gonna open up the floor for anyone that may or may not have a question. If not, then I'll call it a day as well, because I've got, how many missed calls do you have, Rob?
8.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly my point. I'll let you get
I know they're all calling about Hume.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna open this up for if Alex, Solom, or Ewan have any questions for me or Rob about competitions, let me know. You feel free to unmic yourself and ask away. If not, we're gonna get out of here. Ewan, what's up with your question?
Hey, thanks for a great conversation, first of all. And I do have a conversation, not necessarily for competing offers, but this is advice I get from a friend recently. So he's saying, given the market is super hot, why don't I just sell my house, rent an apartment, hold my cash for a while, then when the market tanks, I come back in. And I found this is a very funny point of view. And I just want to hear, both of your opinions on this. I mean, I'm not going to do it, but I do want to hear the logic.
Rob, do you want to tackle this one first, or want me to go?
I hear this all the time. Who knows what the market's going to do? Like, the market's never tanked to the point where, don't do that.
When it turns of we hear this all the time. I know, Rob, you do too. I hear from all the time from my friends and family and clients as well, in terms of wait for the market to come down, as it inevitably will, and then buy houses at a discount rather than the competition. I would break this down to a few things. First and foremost, if you understand real estate markets the same way as any market, it's supply and demand. Supply's at an all-time low, demand's at an all-time high. For that to reverse, you would either need 1,500, 2,000, 2,500 new homes to hit the market overnight.
Yeah.
Which I don't know if you've seen buyer demand, but the way they're eating at homes, I don't know if that's going to be able to happen. Now, COVID has stopped a lot of people from selling in this time, and they're going to come back eventually, and we'll get that boost in supply then. Whether that's enough to offset what the market has done or is currently doing, I don't think it will. The other side is buyer demand, which is based on the economic power of Halifax right now. And a few things right there. If you want the market to tank, you pretty much are betting on the Halifax economy crashing. I've said this before. You would need people to lose jobs, be able to and have to move away to get them back in an Ottawa, Toronto, a Montreal, a Vancouver, a Edmonton, or a Calgary. So if you're thinking about doing that, of selling your house, getting the bank, and sitting in an apartment for however many years, I would just look at, fundamentally speaking, the cost of it. So if you're going to rent an apartment in Halifax, how much does that cost per month in terms of expenses and rent? Is it more or less or on par to your mortgage? Because if you were to do that, you're going to lose the gains in the market in your real estate in general. Just from a pure investor standpoint, the home equity gains is greater than the actual rental gains, because you don't gain anything in renting. Thirdly speaking, I just don't think the market's going to tank. And if it does, let's say we're wrong. Rob's shaking his head. I shake my head too, but just to cater to this one as well, where does it tank? Yeah. That's the question, right? Because like we 360,000 was the average home price last year. We're now to 460, 470, 480 in that ballpark. If it tanks today, does it come down to 450, 440, 420, 410? either way, you still lost $40,000 to $50,000 in home equity with that if you didn't purchase this past year. What's it going to gain in the next year? Because what happens, it goes up to 500, 510, and then it tanks at 500, 490, 480. You can't, gauging the market and trying to interpret any type of market, whether it's stocks or real estate, it's almost next to impossible. We can be as informed as we can, as we are, and be as on top of this as we possibly can be. But in terms of getting in, my advice to anyone is get in the market. Just get in. Whether it's a cheap little condo in some outskirts of the city that's 200K, you're probably going to see a minimal return over year if you hold on to it for 5 years, rather than renting an apartment. That's my long-winded spiel, Ewan.
Yeah, very informative. Thank you. Thank
yeah,
you
no worries. Anyone else, or we're going to get out of here? Alex, no? No worries. All right, Rob. Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure, sir. Go and enjoy your 3 listings with all your humans, because that sounds great.
Yeah. It's only one listing this weekend. So
I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. That's crazy. Thank you all so much for coming. Always a pleasure. Rob, I'm sure I'll talk to you soon.
You will.
All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.